The content of this meeting is being open to other apps. Okay, it's on YouTube. Let's see if it pops up on my notifications.
Oh, it was just a technical glitch. It went now. I just tried it like 5 times. The fifth time it worked. Wow. That was interesting.
The content of this meeting is being open to other apps. Okay, it's on YouTube.
Okay. So we're live. After technical difficulties, we made it in the nick of time. Okay. Didn't expect the technical difficulties, but I should always expect some kind of whatever. It's cool. We're here. I'm gonna emulate Donald Trump. Let's see if we can bring up the handsome man sitting next to me, because everybody's always beautiful and stuff.
No, it's double screen, so you don't have to do anything.
Right, but I'm not looking at that for some reason, so I'm trying to go back to the meeting because it wasn't working. Got it. All right. I'm gonna wait another minute or two, see if anybody wants to join us before we jump in. Because we haven't, like I said, we've got a new time, so I don't know if people are still gonna come in, but we are starting to get people. So I want to I want to give them an opportunity to jump in. And I'm monitoring it on my phone to see if we have. To see if anybody wants to join us. Let's mute this. Jump in. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome to the think tank. We use deductive reason. Excuse me. Welcome to the think tank, where we use deductive reasoning, critical thinking, pinch of common sense. I'm off. I'm not used to doing this in the evening time. Normally, we at 5:30 in the morning trying to wipe the coal out our eyes, but this is
Here
gonna
we
be our
go.
new time, 9 o'clock Sundays, so more people could join us and have these important conversations about what's going on in our country and in our world. Welcome to the think tank. We use critical thinking, deductive reasoning, a pinch of common sense to draw unbiased logical conclusions. Today I have Brenda the channel back once again to discuss the MAGA side of what's going on in this very divided country that we now reside in. The Honorable Dion Powell. I'm your host, LC. Mr. Powell, would you like to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm Dion Powell, and I wouldn't be talking to you today without our sponsor, the Lord Jesus Christ. So happy Resurrection Sunday to all those believers out there who believe that He rose today, so that everybody here watching this channel and us on this channel giving it to you would be here. Thank you, Jesus. I'm a district leader here in the Bronx Conservative Party of the 78th AD, and I'm a Black MAGA, if you want to call it that. I'm trying to get in Trump administration. I'm with the state Conservative Party. I'm a consultant. And yeah, but interesting enough, there is a Trump deranged deacon in my church who really hates my guts. And when he sees me, it's totally he wants his wife. He doesn't want to. He wants to spit on the floor when he sees me. That's how disgusting he is. That's why I only go to that church once in a while. So it's the second time. The first time when Trump won, when I shouldn't have went there to gloat like the Knicks won, and he was totally disgusted with me. And then the other day when I went for like a little funeral, he was there. Oh, don't talk to this guy. Well, there you go. Sometimes even believers too could be Trump deranged, and they need Jesus. Back to you, LC, and shout out to AD who's in our comments right now, ready to troll.
Salute. So, and if you're not a Christian, if something about colonial religion bothers you, happy Ishtar Day, where Easter was named
Oh
from,
my God, here we go.
resurrection, birth of the celebration
We can't
of
talk
new
politics and
life and
religion.
birth. Oh, I'm sorry. It is Ishtar Day. I mean, sorry,
Passover,
Easter.
Passover, Passover. I said Resurrection Sunday because a true Christian will rebrand it as such after all that pagan information came out. So
Well, I mean, the whole world was quote unquote pagan until, we were conquered and force fed a religion that made us subservient to the colonialist imperialist empire. And before that, we all followed the true religion. I guess it's not really religion, spirituality. We were just in touch with God, the universe, and ourselves. And then we was forced a white God to force fed a white God because what venerating our ancestors, appreciating nature and what God gave us wasn't good enough. We had to have a white savior.
Yeah, the
So
white savior, like in Ethiopia, right? Where they have the Ten Commandments, that damn Ethiopia and this white supremacy and religion. But let's segue back to local politics here in America and beyond.
right. And in response to that, in case anybody doesn't know, it's because the first Bible was an Ethiopian Bible. So,
Oh.
right. Well, that doesn't. So, but those stories, that's a whole conversation. I have whole separate topics on spirituality on our channel. If you haven't checked it out, check out Me and Fly. She might offend you, but
Yes,
she
like
speaks truth. She's bad. We talk about spirituality. Come check us out. But as the Honorable Dion Powell suggested, we should stick to the topics at hand. I did want to wish everybody a happy Let's Go Make Babies Day. So let's talk about the habit. Let's talk about science, since we're in religion. Let's segue to science. Once again, we're losing science. I mean, history's being erased. Poison in the air doesn't poison us anymore. Destroying habitats doesn't endanger so-called endangered species. So, if there's only a few of them left, like, let's turn on the waters in California and, fish get wiped out. So what? I mean, destroying the endangered species habitat is not dangerous to that species. It's not going to kill them off. And I guess if it does, and we don't have science, we understand that ecosystems are dependent on all of the species in their habitat. To make it very simple, if you don't have bugs, then you don't have spiders. That's a bad example. Let's say something else. Let's make it even simpler. If we don't have grass, then cows can't eat. And if cows can't eat, then we don't have that delicious red meat. Or if we don't have chicken feed, we don't have chicken. Like there's things in the environment, and there's an entire ecosystem, science stuff. And right now we're destroying the habitats of endangered species because science is no more. What I want to know from the MAGA perspective is, how is that sustainable?
well, the way I read into it, it basically was the EPA changing guidelines so that it wouldn't be so regulatory over certain habitats in which natural resources, animals are there. Ooh, good. Excuse me. And so they're trying to say that all this DEI stuff and pro weather stuff and pro climate change stuff, that whole climate change industry, ecosystem industry that makes a lot of money doing nothing, they're trying to change those guidelines. And using species as being extinct helps the usual guilt and shame feelings to enact or used to enact some of these environmental justice industry folks in those areas. But they forget on this side, they feel as though that actually blocks progress of certain industries when it comes to those areas.
All right, so we're gonna go into one of my favorite things, a pinch of common sense, right? Because you're the common sense party, supposedly, right? So check it, right, 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 right. You ready? You ready? You ready? So over the last 5 years, we've had more and more 100 plus, 95 plus days in the 95 plus degree days in a row. The climate is changing. Weather is getting hotter in a steady. I mean, we had the first winter in like half a decade in the northeast side of America. Like the weather is changing. Climate change, whether you want to believe in science or not, because I see that, the common sense party doesn't believe in science. Maybe we can use what is happening in front of our very eyes, which is actually a scientific method, and say that something is happening to the weather. So, like, Maha, let's take a look at what's happening. Let's study it. Instead, let's get rid of vaccines and cancel and let's pollute the air. Let's do pollution.
Well,
Because
that's the
let's use
endangered.
an example. Let's use an example. Let me see if I can find it right quick. Let me see if I can find it. There's Oh, I don't see that one. Okay, so there is Cancer Valley. Cancer Valley, there the government was suing a company to stop them from making a particular type of, oh my God, I don't have it in front of me. I'm mad at myself. It must be in my other notes. It must have been in my other notes. But they were suing to stop them. I'm going to look it up. Let me look it up here. From stopping them from making a particular, I should have this up. I apologize, everybody. I messed up on my list today. But let's see if we can pull up to make a particular Cancer Alley. I apologize. Here we go. In Louisiana. And the government was suing a company from making a particular material that was releasing a carcinogen into the world. I haven't is pulling up now.
Yes, I
And this
read the same
carcinogen
thing.
was killing people at an extremely high rate. Oh, they couldn't prove it was a carcinogen means something that causes cancer. And what they were releasing was, by all regards, likely a carcinogen, as it was a 71% or 82%, I don't remember, chance of it being a carcinogen. What that means is that they were making stuff that and releasing it into an environment that was killing the people around it. There's schools there. There's churches, businesses. Of course, it's a black area, but I guess that's not important, right? So destroying the environment there and ignoring science is literally having real life effects on people.
Okay. It's not ignoring science in the sense that redefining the terms of the extinct habitat, just like gender fluidity, and that there are more than two sexes. So that's that science. We can always have a gender bender, and we can also bend the laws of physics at the same time. Isn't that great how language works in English language, in which you can define what inflation is good inflation, right? And that's what happens on these administrations all the time.
Did you just compare releasing carcinogens into the air near a school to something that science disproves, such as
Gender, like a
gender
boy's not a
fluidity?
girl, and a boy can be a girl, and a girl can be a boy science.
That's
Yep.
not science.
Well, then that's what's all being told right now. Because you need gender affirming care, so that's healthy too. Gender affirming care.
What does that have to do with science? That's nothing to
That
do with
is science. That's
science.
biology. So they're redefining what biology is on the administrative level. So these are policies in which they're redefining what extinct habitat is for these animals for whatever purpose it may be. So I'm just saying that the government has discretion, looks like, to define certain types of scientific requirements for certain things. Understand? When it
I
comes to
see.
pollution and these kind of things, happens all the time.
Spoken like a true Christian. I don't care if you're murdering somebody or if you're
Abortion.
just having sex out of wedlock, it's all a sin.
9 month
I get it.
abortion. That's like 9 month abortion, which we all love. It's great for women's health, right?
Or, somebody, a child getting raped by their uncle and still being forced to
Here
have a
we
baby, even though they
go.
can die. Hey, listen, you
And
said one end, I said the other.
the other
I mean, that's what
extreme,
it
slippery
is.
slope, but still, abortion on demand. We have lots of abortions, so I'm sure that's the case that happens all the time, if not mostly.
So, as a MAGA supporter, you're all for let's make money and kill
Babies,
the endangered species
organ
by
harvesting,
destroying their habitat because it's interfering
and
with us
skin
making money.
cream from the babies and make me immortal
I didn't even
from the
understand what you were
fetuses.
saying.
Okay, fine. Let's care about the tree huggers. Good
I hug trees.
luck with that.
Absolutely.
Good luck.
It's spiritual. It's something that Christians probably would look
Dogs
at me
have more
crazy
rights
for.
than black men in America. Believe that. They'll let a dog in a fine 5-star restaurant than a black man with a do-rag. How about that?
That sounds very MAGA. So,
Yes, we call out the BS.
no, I meant to actually, the owner of the restaurant sounds more like a MAGA
Liberal
person than
progressives
a.
do it all the time in New York. So
Really?
no jeans, no hoodies, no boots. Who owns those places that have those policies on the wall? Are Republicans here in New York doing that in these restaurants and these clubs at these brunches?
You have a good point, but you know what? If I go into a five-star restaurant, I want to see some class in there too. I mean, we're not
But
talking
I don't
about
want to
racism,
see
we're
no
talking about
dogs while I'm
classism.
eating. I don't see a dog while I'm eating.
I don't want to see a dog while I'm eating either. I happen to agree. I have one. I don't like the dog at my table. My daughter feeds it anyway. So to sum this up, you're for, as a MAGA supporter, you're for destroying environments so that businesses that can make profit.
The answer is no. But then again, some of these, because you have to understand that environmental justice is a multi-million dollar industry for grants and other money grabs as well that do nothing. Like a scientific study to see how we can make these two frogs lesbians, or to a scientific study for, let's see if we can have this species over here, this breed of pigs over here, to see if they'll flourish so we can make some more pork chops. So some of those things to protect certain areas are just one big bunny grab. When in actuality, according to Captain Planet and these guys, the Earth should have been destroyed by 2050. So what are we talking about?
I did see where Elon found some of these crazy experiments. You know what I did not see? I did not see who got those grants, who got paid this money to do this crazy research. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm trying to say that the evidence doesn't support the claims.
Let's just go to doge.gov.
Yeah, okay. I we've done that,
The
and
viewers should go to doge.gov, which is always updated every day. So you can see all those links there.
absolutely, and they could decide. So again, the habitats are being destroyed for financial gain. Are we okay with killing off entire species,
The answer is
like
no. The answer is
like they're
no. Let's
black
move
people in
on.
Gaza for profit, and you want to build hotels? Are we okay with killing off entire species or
No
eradicating?
again. Let's move on.
All right, so let's go to Elon Musk since this is a segue. You brought Elon up. Let's talk about Elon, right?
You
Because
go,
Elon
Elon.
is why was he in a briefing on what would happen if the United States and China went to war?
China. Well, according to this, the president wasn't happy about that because of
No, he wasn't.
Elon Musk presents there is a conflict of interest. He has business ventures in China. So that's what happened. And
Okay, fair enough.
we can move on.
How did it happen? How did something like that happen? How does he
Well,
have enough power to be there even though Trump didn't want him there? How did Elon get that much? Is it because he's paying for everything?
let's not go there. We're in month what, four? And Elon Musk has been getting access to a lot of things. So of course there may have been some overlap or some unforeseen results. Some people, let's Elon, let him in, everybody. You know how he does. Strolls on in. So there aren't proper safeguards in certain areas yet because it's still a new administration. Let's give him a year and a half and see what happens. Just like everybody else.
It was a briefing on what happens if U.S. and China go to war. That was okay. Okay. So let's continue with Elon, right? So he has been in a lot of agencies. He's gotten to access to a lot of information. Russia appears to be tapped into the Doge systems where they're getting usernames and passwords. So Russia is getting all access to all the information that Elon has. So says, I don't have his name. Is that Bromine? Yes, so says Bromine, who was the whistleblower on this. So they tried to bribe Bromine to shut him up. They threatened him, and he came out anyway. And apparently, this is not the only agency it might have happened with. Russia has access to the username. How does Russia have access to username and passwords? Like, I thought maybe Trump was the snitch, but Elon is going into all our systems, and Russia is taking out information.
Well, guess
Is
what? It happens all the time, my friend, with these foreign agents and entities in our systems. Happens all the time. They influence our elections just like we influence their elections abroad by certain cyber warfare, it's called. So these things happen all the time. But now, seeing though Elon Musk is digging around, it must be his fault.
well, being the Doge, they have access to the Doge systems, and they got the information from Doge. I can see how it would be considered Elon's fault because everybody's
Okay?
ups.
Well, the thing is, this area, this agency is kind of inconsequential, and they've even said that. But these things happen all the time.
Okay, so it's just a slip up. Don't worry about Russia
No,
getting
no, it's
access to all
cyber
our information.
warfare. It's cyber warfare. There's a lot of hackers around the world that try
It
to
wasn't a
protect their.
hack. Elon gave them access. Elon was working with them. They had access because they worked with Elon. This wasn't a hack.
All
That's
right.
the problem.
Well, it is what it is, looks to me. But in the meantime, the systems that they had access to, because Elon Musk gave them the keys, and in the grand scheme of things, it's inconsequential. But we're glad that people like you and beyond in the media have caught it. Hopefully, he'll try to do better next time.
Oh, I see that I made a error, and the chloroprene, the carcinogen from Cancer Alley, is listed here instead of up there. I made an error. But we're not going to go backtrack. We're going to move forward. The name of the carcinogen in Cancer Alley, for anybody interested, is chloroprene. But we're going to move forward. We're going to talk about Jerome Powell. For those of y'all that don't know, Jerome Powell, not related to Dion Powell, is the head of the feds. He's the dude who makes the decisions. If
The
inflation rates go
Federal
up,
Reserve, the Federal Reserve.
right, right, the Federal Reserve, the Fed, the Federal Reserve, right. Sorry. Um,
No relation to
if
me, by the way.
if inflation goes up and somebody has to make a decision on what to do, and we say, what is the word I'm looking for? Interest rates have to go down in order to be able to try and combat the inflation. Oh, I'm sorry, you raise interest rates to combat inflation so that people buy less and drive inflation down. In English, what that means is you add a tax to the money and people will spend less. And if people spend less, prices can't stay up because people aren't buying as much and and businesses lower their prices to try and bring customers back in. So the person that makes the decision on whether to raise or lower in interest rates, his name is Jerome Powell. He is the head of the Federal Reserve. So Jerome Powell is now being blamed for inflation, not the tariffs that he warned about the entire time, but now that he's spoken out about the dismal prospect for the future that has been caused by the tariffs, he's been alienated and attacked. And the president has even said that he wants his job, something that it is not clear if it's in his job description to be able to say. It's not clear up to now, unprecedented for the president to be able to have any control, say so whatsoever on who is in charge of the Federal Reserve, a private entity, by
That's
the way.
interesting because Donald Trump appoints him in 2017. So
Is it now? I have to research
fabulous,
that.
huh? Donald Trump.
Jerome Powell. So then he wants to replace him. So this is another person going that you're saying that this is another person Trump appointed going against him.
Since 2017. Unfortunately, at the time, the first term, Trump wasn't really sure what he was doing, but this time he does. And people like Jerome Powell, in his opinion, he wanted to get rid of early, but he couldn't because he was still trying to figure things out. Now, mind you, that Joe Biden retained him, right? He stayed under the Biden administration, and here we are again. But this time, Uncle Trump was learning his lessons. Like, you know what? This guy's going to be a problem. However, I will look at it critically and tell you what I read, in which Donald Trump does have vested interest, so the mainstream media has said, in which these interest rates affect real estate owners like him if it goes up or down, depending on the property values and how much they can charge for rent and mortgages. That's why he's focused on it. And historically, presidents really stay really hands off with the Federal Reserve. But Trump, as you can see, he's trying to shake things up and see what's really going on over there.
I stand corrected. I love being proven wrong. Feels kind of like I didn't do enough research on that one. No, you're the first person that I've heard in the MAGA party to actually combat that misinformation. Thank you for bringing it to my attention.
That's why I'm here.
I appreciate it. So are you saying that you don't believe Mr. Powell, Jerome Powell, when he says that tariffs may cause inflation? And do you believe Trump when he blames Jerome Powell for inflation?
Okay, well, once again, disclaimer, I'm not really good at economics like physics. I keep saying it lots of time, and chemistry, by the way. Um, is that do I believe that tariffs can cause inflation? For what I see, yes. That's that part one of your question directly. And number two, Trump blaming Jerome Powell, I would agree with because he's in charge of the Federal Reserve and with the regulatory bodies when it comes to that institution of economics for our country. So people look at the Federal Reserve, in my understanding, in its reports, and it does influence certain economics of the country. So if he gets rid of him, just like he gets rid of people in the Department of Justice or in the court system or any other agency to do his bidding, then it is what it is.
Ooh. You do know that he's not the king, right? This is a republic with like
He's
three
the
separate
executive
powers.
officer, just like any other president of the company. Because you have to agree, we have a contract called a Social Security number with this company called America. So, as the executive president and CEO of this America and commander in chief, he does have certain leverage. But if anybody has a problem with it, take it up with Congress. Let them try to stop him or the Supreme Court. And remember, I keep saying on this show, the consequence is what? And impeachment, which is an indictment of the president of the United States. So if we're going to stop this guy, there's lots of policies and procedures pursuant the United States Constitution. And there you go.
Okay, so you acknowledge that there is a separation of powers, and some of the powers that you are giving him are not allocated to him via the founding paperwork of this country,
Well, the voters,
the
my friend, the
Constitution.
majority of the voters in this country voted for him to be the executive officer of all these agencies and departments. So, at his discretion, he could do these things, which he finds in his judgment and amongst his administration. It's just not President Trump, it's also the administration of different eggheads and leaders within it. Chiefs of staff like, hey, President, this is what you should do. But then again, he comes to the table with a robust dossier of a businessman and owner and those leadership skills. Like, you know what? I've dealt with the federal government. I've had contracts. This is what the problem is. I want to see this done this way. Plus, he has 4 years of previous administration where he learned from those mistakes. And here we are. But again, Congress is at a stalemate when it comes to the other side of the blue team who want to hold him accountable in certain regards. And again, pursuing the Constitution, because Ruth Bader Ginsburg went to die in office, as she did, sleep in peace, he was able to appoint three Supreme Court judges during his 4 years. And here we are. They're conservative, mostly agree with President Trump. Sometimes they don't. And here we are.
And he wants to, like what you said, he can get rid of Supreme Court, so he can get rid of judges who don't. That sounds more like he is an aristocracy rather than an executive branch leader. For instance, for
Listen, I just
instance,
told you how you can stop the man. Just impeach him and kick him out. But again, Congress is at a standstill when it comes to that. But Reverend Al Green, his slick back, he's going to put out the articles of impeachment soon, Leo. So you don't have to
for
worry.
the first one, he doesn't expect it to pass this time, but he's starting a movement. The Republicans better hold the House and the Senate in the midterms, which is at the present point starting to look unlikely. So, well, unless they suppress votes. We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about ignoring court orders outright and flat. Let's say the executive branch decides that they're not going to follow a court order. I can't even imagine something like that. Oh, wait a minute, Garcia, right? Yes. So we
That's for this goddamn illegal. The blue team will die on this hill. People said 1,000. Good. Keep fighting. Have you seen this man's knuckles? With it? I have people in the gang realm. If you look at this man's knuckles and his hands like this man is down with MS-13 and the gang rail and the element. He did be his girlfriend, wife, whatever the case may be. He is an El Salvadorian citizen. So now that we threw him back into his country, if they want to extradite him, then we're not going to waste our resources or military to get him back. Quite simple. I'm sure the president
resources or
and
military.
ICE will do better next
You
time.
fact check me, my turn.
That's it.
His records, his criminal records have come out. Guess what? They're clean. On top of which he did have asylum in his country. And what was the third thing you said? You said, yeah, he absolutely, how did he get here without asylum? He had asylum in his country.
Came in
His criminal
illegally.
records were clean. And the United States is paying, our tax dollars, is paying to keep him in jail. So rather than having this man who had asylum in our country, who's paying taxes, helping us to support Donald Trump because he's an executive officer, instead of contributing to society, our tax dollars are now paying to keep him in a foreign concentration camp.
That's his country. He is a citizen of El
Then why are we
Salvador.
paying for him to
It's
be
not
there?
a foreign country for him, my guy.
So then why are we paying for him to be there? That's out of Donald Trump's mouth. Why that we're paying for him to be there?
That
Why
comes
are
out of
we
Donald
paying for him
Trump's
to be there
mouth. Now
then?
you believe him after all the lies you claim
No,
to
I,
believe,
I, I don't hardly believe anything except for the
except for this
facts.
one, right?
Except for the facts. And the facts are we pay for the prisoners that we extradite to El Salvador. These are the facts. Him
Well,
and the president of El Salvador had a conference, a meeting last week. I think it was last
and
week,
the president
Monday,
of El Salvador doesn't care. So if the president of El
where he
Salvador
was happy to
cares,
receive the money to keep Garcia there. And he said, no, he doesn't have to extradite him. He would if Trump asked, but basically he's not going to extradite him because we're paying to keep him there. Our tax dollars are paying to hold this man, this innocent man,
in the
prisoner.
grand scheme of things, the voters are okay. He'll be fine, and we should move on to other problems that we have to deal with. But if you want to die on this hill of protecting an illegal alien as opposed to other problems with other American citizens like moi, then they all go right ahead, Blue Team. We'll see what happens in the midterms. How many illegals that you want to protect to help you get those votes?
It's not about the illegal, it's about the illegality of disobeying a court order, a legal court order,
You have to
and
impeach the man.
Trump's excuses for disobeying the court order are all lies. He is literally just like screw the courts. I'm going to keep this innocent man in jail, and y'all are going to pay for him to stay there overseas.
In his own country.
Okay, so let's expand that. Since I'm talking about it, let's segue into the next portion. You ready? So what about the fact now he's talking about deporting legal citizens to El Salvador if he thinks the crime is worthy of them being extradited, regardless of their citizen status,
I'm
born
glad you asked.
citizen status. And
I'm
this is what
glad
he's
you
talking about now.
Well, ready for my answer? Okay, I'm glad you asked because number one, people inside know that sometimes Trump's mouth, he just be trolling. So that's the first thing. Because we already know, pursuant to the United States Constitution, according to the 22nd Amendment, he wouldn't be able to do that. So, and this guy, as you mentioned earlier, is not an American citizen.
Well, right, because Trump obeys the Constitution, except for wait, he's not obeying anything in the Constitution. Half his executive orders are unconstitutional, and executive orders are supposed to fall within the realm of the Constitution. You cannot write an executive order unless it falls within the parameters
If
of
you
the
don't like
Constitution.
it, just have Congress overturn it and he'll just veto it. So Congress has to unite to stop this man. Make sense?
So the problem is you're saying rely on Congress to defend us, and what I'm saying is
That's what you're
Congress.
supposed to do.
You're telling me right now Congress is not going to defend us, so the 22nd Amendment is irrelevant. He's going to start deporting citizens at his whim because Congress won't stop him. That's what you just said to me.
Okay, then I just said that to you. So who should you be more mad at? Donald Trump or your local congressperson?
Well, my local congressperson wouldn't vote for that. My local congressperson would try and stop it. But should we be mad at Congress? The entire system has been corrupted. That kind of
There
is the
you
point.
go. Well, then why are we talking about this? If it's so futile, since the board, what
Because
we can
if
do?
more people are informed of what's going on, maybe something can be done during the midterms.
More people supporting
And
Donald Trump as opposed to the other side, regardless.
that's in the past. Now we're looking at what's happening now. I
Yeah, but
think
still don't
inflation
trust
is
the
going to change
Democrats.
that. I
They
think inflation
trust.
is going to change that.
Well, we're still waiting. It's month number 4. So
I mean, right now he's weaponized the justice system. He's going after Chris Krebs, who is a whistleblower from his first administration, stating that, he basically was separating families on purpose at the border. And even though we all know it to be true, he's going after someone for writing a book on it. He sucked the he's having the man investigated for treason because he wrote a book that was truthful.
all right. So
Like
the first thing is that this is somebody that was disgruntled on the first administration, and he did a lot to undermine the president of the United States. So just like a lot of people, the president took away his security clearances. What do you need that for if you're not in administration? That's number one. The next thing is him and some of his other counterparts, they were quick because of the dissension to actually recognize and try to stop all the investigation when it comes to the 2020 election, whereas the president says repeatedly was not only just stolen, but they won't let the investigation go to prove otherwise. And anything that goes with January 6th, those kind of evidence, a portion of them were destroyed. So there's a lot of question marks about where did 7 million votes come from in 2020 that disappeared in 2024. So there's a lot going on here. Now, the call for investigation with Pam Bondi, it's up to her now.
Well, there's been independent groups, unbiased, not on either side, that have investigated and come to conclusions. There's entire documentaries on it. They don't press charges because that's not their job. Their job is just to study the analytics. It appears there was voter tampering and voter suppression.
In
This is
2020?
according to people that do this for a living that don't have anything to gain by this. They're not trying to get more fame.
They're not Trump
They
deranged and hate Donald Trump and must prove everything that he says is wrong. It's not, they don't have any.
actually no, actually no. A lot of them are actually Republicans. In answer to that, so I mean, the voter suppression happened. If you don't believe that voter suppression happened, then let's segue really quickly. I don't have that today. I was going to do that on a short, huh? There is a woman named Riggs running for re-election in North Carolina. Miss Riggs is going for the judicial a judge's position. I believe she already had the position. Now she's going back. they they did a recount like 3 times already to try and stop her on this vote. She won all 3 times, and now they're taking it to court, and she's fighting for a fourth time, even though she won her Democratic election. They looked at the list of the voters. They said these people aren't valid voters, even though they presented their driver's license. Off the very same list, Republicans that presented their driver's license are not being challenged. They're only challenging Democratic voters in some areas using their own driver's license. I believe we spoke about this before. Even her own parents who've been there voting for 50 years were using their very same driver's license were challenged. Voter suppression appears to be happening by the Republicans, and that's just one example. Do you believe that this is a false narrative?
I don't know enough about it, but even in New York State, if you suspect anybody that's voting that should not be voting, you can object to that. A lot of people don't know their rights here in New York City, which has a lot of restrictive voting rights and access laws. So again, that's something that I'm not knowledgeable, but it seems to me that you, like a lot of people, are just trying to nitpick. Where if you ask Scott Pressler out of Pennsylvania, he has found a lot of voter suppression on the side affecting Republicans. That's why he's even had to change his address to actually speak to certain counties board of elections. Say, hey, this is not fair as an advocate. So look up once again Scott Pressler and what he has to say about voter suppression and disenfranchisement when it comes to Republicans.
So it's on both sides of the aisle, but there was extreme
Oh God.
voter suppression in the swing states that was proven, in particular in black
So you think this
neighborhoods.
election was stolen, Leo? Just say it. The 2024 election was stolen by that evil Donald Trump and his Republican people. There's no way he could have got the majority of the vote and all the swing states. That's impossible. It must have been rigged.
Well, I can't say that. I don't know enough about it, but the people that actually do it for a living seem to think that the likelihood of that, of people voting Democrat all the way down the list and only voting for Donald Trump in all blue states who have voted nothing but Democrat all their lives, at the extreme mass amount that it happened, seems to be statistically, because he's a, guys that statistics for a living. Now, like, you don't know anything about numbers like that, like finances. When you start talking about statistics, my brain explodes. But according to these statistic analysis personnel who do this for a living, examine votes for a living, who've been doing this for the last, I don't know, 40, 50
Again,
years.
there were 7 million votes, give or take, surplus in 2020 with all the mail-in ballots and the ballot harvesting. But whereas in 2024, those 7 million voters stayed home? Really? I don't know. Maybe those 7 million voters were suppressed and couldn't vote Democrat. So where are those 7 million voters?
Well, I mean, right now they're not even for the Riggs election. They're not even taking votes from people overseas that are military. They're denying military votes. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe.
All the mail-in votes, all 7 million mail-in votes for Joe Biden.
Probably not,
Kamala
because he since he
Harris.
wasn't running.
So
Um,
now the Republicans were strategically able to suppress 7 million votes to let Donald Trump win the majority vote in all swing states and electoral college. With all the scrutinization of Donald Trump and all the court cases, he had time to coordinate that effort.
I don't think he had to coordinate that effort. He had a
In that
lot of money working
assassination
with him.
attempt.
He had a lot of money working with him,
What?
and a
Kamala
lot
Harris
of
had a lot of money working for her. And there's still black people I know personally that haven't gotten paid by the campaign, but they got paid by that GoFundMe. So thank you, Jesus.
the most powerful story I saw about voter suppression came from a cousin of Dr. Martin Luther King who lived in one of the swing states, who also got her vote challenged like millions of other people and wasn't able to vote. And it was a whole big thing. It was a debacle. There was voter suppression, especially in black people's areas. It just is a fact. And you say it happens on both sides. That's fine. I'll accept that because I don't know. I can't prove it either one way or the other. But to say that it only happens to Republicans sounds almost not quite like denial. But
They only happens to Republicans. I'm saying it happens on both sides. And I just gave you an example. When you look up Scott Presler and his great body of work he did in the 2024 in Pennsylvania, all the trials and tribulations he had to do to give Republicans more voter access in such a swing states. Understand?
well, I don't think that our vote counts anyway.
Because
That's
electoral college, right? Because electoral college, or just in general, the evil white man's vote that he tricked the black people that it was their superpower.
why would it be a white man?
The white man
Anyway,
invented voting, and so we use it as a
the white man
superpower.
did
Black
what?
people invented voting here in America.
Did they?
The founding fathers invented the voting process. Wouldn't you agree? For
No,
democracy in this republic,
absolutely. In this
the black
republic,
people,
yes.
there's
In
black
this
people in voting,
republic, in this republic, yes.
and the white man
But to
invented
sit,
the same racist court systems that we're trying to take Donald Trump in, right?
well, apparently there are parts of Africa that's fed up with Donald Trump.
Like
Speaking of
where?
black people,
Where?
uh, Uganda, for instance, they
Okay.
have declared that there will be no iron or unprocessed minerals sold to America at this point, which America relies on these rare earth minerals. Uganda is one of the largest and has some of the best rare earth minerals in the world. So, how will you probably not going to really know the answer to this, but do you think the United States is going to be able to find a way to circumvent the fact that Uganda will no longer sell them rare earth minerals?
It's
Do,
called drill baby drill here in America and all our territories. But on top of that, we haven't talked about tariffs. The next thing is from my African network, because I've been to Africa 4 times. I used to sit on the African Advisory Council here in the Bronx. The Bronx has the most countries represented citizenry here in America of Africans. U.S. aid. They're actually happy that U.S. aid has been dismantled because U.S. aid actually caused more harm to Africa than actually what's going on in Uganda because U.S. aid in America is what actually finances a lot of dictatorships and takeovers of many countries. On top of that, using this funding in forms of grants and also to push the LGBT agenda, which they're against there in Africa. And on top of that, U.S. aid actually was designed to keep certain countries economically crippled because they had to buy all the information and resources from America through USAID. So, like my doctor once told me, USAID is a misnomer. It's only there internationally to serve America's best interests in third world countries. So, a lot of Africans overall on the continent are happy that USAID is getting dismantled and it will stop being funding their respective African countries with the American agenda.
I would like to know if Africa at large is happy. I having the largest constituents of Africans in the country at your disposal to gain that knowledge from is powerful. It is a
One side is
definitive.
dangerous. WhatsApp's dangerous, Telegram's dangerous, WeChat is dangerous, Signal's dangerous because it's all helped us find each other globally. So the freaking mainstream media, as it's called, they can't just control the narrative, as they say. We can actually get our information real time on the ground if you have a network on the ground, and like I do. So it's very important.
Well, the people I've spoken to for Africa are devastated about the funding from USAID because that was also what they use to fund the research on, I don't know, AIDS and things like that. The people I know from
Lesbian
Africa are,
frogs.
well, I deal with the scientists and stuff.
Well, scientists want to
So
create frogs to be lesbian too. We just got to put something in the water.
yeah, I know that the conservatives are not really concerned with science. I get it.
Okay. When it comes to
Pop, 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 pop.
gender fluidity, of course, and abortion, and see how we use these fetuses and embryos that are not babies to actually increase our lifespans and actually organ harvest from those nice little abortions. I love it.
So Trump needs to defend himself from E. Jean Carroll,
Here we go
but
again.
what? The feds is going to now our tax dollars have to defend the president
Yes, because this goes back to I
in
think
a legal suit on something he did, a legal suit. Why are we spending our tax dollars defending the president in a
because
civil suit?
his argument is that these charges were brought up in 2017 when he was the president of the United States. Anytime a lawsuit is built as I guess charged against any federal employee, even on his level, it has to read E. Jean Carroll versus the United States as opposed to E. Jean Carroll versus Donald Trump. Doesn't that make sense, Leo? You have to sue the entity, not the individual, just like any other company.
That's not exactly how that works. No,
Oh wow!
no, you can
It
absolutely
has to be.
sue.
You you can't sue
Let's go
Mayor
popular.
Adams. You have to sue New York City.
Well, bust it, right? So Jay-Z can be sued and his company can be sued, right? Because that's happening as we speak. Or Puff Daddy can be sued and his company can be sued. Because that's happening right now, right? So no, that's not exactly how it works. No, no. You can sue an individual outside of the entity because the individual
I'm just giving you the man's argument. That's what he's saying. You can't sue me. You have to sue the United States government. That's all the man's saying.
and that's what he's saying, but I don't know if that's actually correct.
Well, that's up for the court to decide. So stay tuned.
So once again, he's circumventing the law.
He didn't do anything. He's just putting it out there. It's time for the courts to see. If the courts say no, he does it anyway. That's a different story. But I'm just giving
Oh
you
my God, if the
the
courts say no and he does it anyway, God forbid Donald Trump ignore the courts.
impeach
He's
him.
being held in contempt of court, right? His administration is being held in contempt of court for
Congress did something
breaking
about
laws
it.
as we speak.
Congress, if you don't like it, do something about it.
Okay, so he's gangster with it. I can't argue that. He's gangster.
This is Trump being Trump.
He's gangster. He's like, yo, bring him, turn the flight around. Oh, make seven of yours, baby. He's ignoring court orders. He don't care what the court's got to say. I'm in power now. I'm throwing up. He's got pictures of himself on Doge with a crown and scepter. Like he's wilding with it. Like he's
Okay. FAFO. We all know what that means.
yeah, he's ignoring, but his administration is literally being held in contempt of court because he doesn't follow court orders. That is happening as we speak, and that was followed by the Supreme Court, which allowed for it. So Supreme Court is holding his administration in contempt of court.
Can
The
we talk
people that
about what I
he
want to
put in
talk about
place,
now?
judges he put in place, are like, but you're ignoring us, and he's like, yeah, well, do something.
Well, let's talk about what I want to talk about now, because this is when the Democrats and then a lot of American people and others are going to be in trouble. So pick one of my two topics that I put on the
Oh
docket.
no, I'm not picking. You pick.
All right, well,
Thank
family,
you.
I don't know if Leo wants me to share the screen with this information because it
Hold
may
on,
be
let me
for
allow it to share. Let's go. Why gotta be me? You good? You be on here all the time. Well, hold up. Did I give you permission? Let me give you permission.
let's see, family, if I can use the share device and not be censored. I'm going to actually take up the one that's going to take a sharp a big portion of today's session, which is whitehouse.gov. It says .gov. It must be good, which is talking about a lab leak, the origins of what? COVID-19. So it looks like the president is.
Before you go on, Dr. Fauci was on the .gov website proclaiming everything you're about to say is not true. So just because it's on .gov doesn't mean anything because everything that this website's about to say was is not true was on the website like 8 years ago. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, what's also a fact is Dr. Fauci has a pre-pardon back to 2014, but he didn't even do anything wrong. So how do you have a pre-pardon? That's a fact as well. So
I didn't know that. That's
we're just talking
crazy.
about COVID-19, SARS, and what we're putting out there. Because now, obviously, the president and this administration can't touch somebody that's pre-pardoned in 2014, and this happened in 2020. However, what the president and his team have decided to do is just put this man on public blast and everybody else in this big COVID-19 fraud and scam. Now, let's read it. Number one, the virus possesses the bio. Okay, let's go up to the top. The origin. It went to all these bullet points, and it's also connected to Wuhan, China. China. That's what the president said. And they're saying, like, wait, this wasn't from no bat soup. What's happening here? So if you look into details of all these reports, and this is his pre-pardon executive branch of primacy, Dr. Fauci, he has been accused of pre-planning this kind of situation. Because remember, they go to the video of him saying that there will be a pandemic. This is before President Trump. So they're accusing him of obstruction, lying to the Congress, as always, but you've been said yourself. And it's also going to several other things from the exploratory committee look into this. The WHO is another joke. Trump wanted to get rid of that and pull out. Masks didn't work. Lockdowns didn't work. New York, Andrew Cuomo again is actually being accused here because he lied on the open say, I didn't tell the business to shut down. That's on the record. He did tell Congress, I didn't tell the business to shut down. He's blown up Andrew Cuomo's spot. Maybe politically, I will admit, Leo, because he's running for mayor of New York City, to put him on blast, but that's the way it is going. The nursing home, my aunt died in a nursing home in 2020 as well as a result of this failure. And on and on and on with the COVID misinformation. It also goes into how 6 feet distancing, social distancing, didn't work at all. That was just one big joke. So here we go. It is December 4th, 2024 report, coronavirus pandemic, 557 pages if you want to digest it. But I suggest you watch Doc Rich or other YouTubers as well that breaks this down very, very eloquently. Back to you, Leo. Any questions, comments, or, it must be Donald Trump's fault?
Well, I can't confirm everything that I was able to
Fake
skim through
news.
there. They said something about Dr. Fauci purposely lied to Congress, or not, he purposely lied to cover up what happened. I can't confirm that. I wasn't there. But as far as everything else on that page, it appears to be true.
Remember, this is qualitative data based on memory and experience and not quantitative data, in which it has all the numbers and facts, because some of that was destroyed in the reports and they're still researching more so. But basically, on the surface, it just confirms a lot of people on this side and the Maha movement, thanks to Kennedy, already knew. And by the way, he's going to put on blast the autism epidemic. But I guess we'll talk about that on the next episode. Seeing as though we only have 8 minutes left, let's go into the next portion of what I
Well,
want to talk
we
about.
don't have a deadline on getting finished tonight unless you're in a rush. We can go to
No, no, I'm
10:30.
not. All right. Well, this is one that the media, because remember, the media didn't touch upon that Dr. Fauci report. I just said, poof, briefly, like
But that's all been proven multiple times. That what you're saying
why?
is accurate.
The media, the mainstream media said Dr. Fauci lied and should go to jail. All
I
right. Well,
didn't see that. No. No. I'm not. I am agreeing with everything you're saying.
okay, well, here's the next thing that the media touches upon, they make fun of, in which Donald Trump, the president and administration, they want to have a 250th anniversary of America. There's a nice little countdown clock here. And this is also on whitehouse.gov, America 250, in which coming up, they're going to start on Memorial Day, and it's going to lead up to Independence Day 2026. And the president wants to do a lot of patriotic pro-America activities throughout the country. And this is something you and your city should partake in. And that's why he's trying to build morale in the country with pride and usual stuff. And this website is up right now. And as you can see, it's going to go over all those wonderful things. So I suggest you check out your whitehouse.gov, America 2250. And also when it comes to the COVID pandemic, as we say on this side of the fence, back to ULC.
Well, my take on that is good.
Are you sure?
Donald Trump's doing something right.
People are complaining that, yeah, because you're a veteran and thank you for your service. So you're vested in this too. But people are saying that DC Mayor Bowser Cooper, you know what that is. They're complaining that he wants to have this big military presentation, all this other stuff. So that's the negative portion. That's the negative portion the media is trying to spin it. So
I didn't even know that. That doesn't even make sense. He wants to venerate America for 250 years. That sounds like something that every American should support. I
yeah,
can't
well,
see a
it's a
negative thing
waste
there.
of time, effort, and energy for the next year when it could be doing something else with those resources instead of all this pro-military stuff that Trump was trying to do, just like Hitler and the Nazi Germany with their military presentations and stuff like that. So
Oh, I mean, I could definitely see where setting up military all across the country can lead to something lasting, but to
right.
deny that the country should celebrate 250 years is insane. Where were we? So I mentioned that there are certain prices going up. Trade is reduced by 60% in imports. That's crazy. 60% of our prior imports now are not coming in. What that means in English is if 100 bars of soap were coming in, that means only 40 are coming in now.
Okay.
So I know economics is your thing, right? But I know you know supply and demand, the basics.
Okay.
So a lower supply means a higher demand, right? We know that.
Okay. Especially when you're letting 20 million illegals. Makes sense.
I don't even know how
The
that.
the demand is up because we have extra people on our resources. That's why people argue inflation went up because we had a limited supply. We added 20 more million people. So of course those prices would go up because it's limited supply. We have more demand from all these people that are below this country. And those are economics that's basic common sense, as we call on this side of the fence.
Can't even argue that.
Thank you.
So now you got rid of them, but you got rid of 20
They're
million.
fighting tooth and nail to make sure this man can get rid of any of these people, wasting more time, effort, and resources. But go
No,
ahead.
that's not exactly true.
He
I
didn't
mean,
support 2 million, 20 million people. I'll tell you that much.
so a 60% reduction in imports doesn't mean anything to you. That's not going to cause inflation because that's what this is caused by the tariffs.
Okay, well, have you seen this affect your day-to-day in the store?
Yes.
Well, give me an example. Give us the example.
Anytime I go food shopping at this point, when I go shopping, prices are going up. If
Give
you
us
haven't
the
seen it
example.
yet, then you haven't been shopping.
Bread. Well, I'm a single bachelor, no kids. My refrigerator has always been barren, like it was brand new when I got this apartment 2 years ago. So the question is, when you go in now, they've said egg prices have gone down. Is that true?
Egg prices have reduced.
Well, now, what have you seen increase? The bars of soap, the toothpaste, the fruits and vegetables. What has gone up in the supermarket?
So many different things I can't even name them, to be honest with you.
And you
No, I'm
can't name
serious. I'm
one.
serious. I'm
I
very
named
serious.
eggs, so you can't name one or something else.
Okay.
Eggs are down.
Okay. I happen to like mixed nuts. I used to get the $14.18 jar. That's now 16.12. But that's just one thing since you wanted me to name something. And the real problem is we are only barely scraping the surface. In 3 to 4 months, when it hits hard, because right now they still have backstock of things. But as that backstock runs out and they restock, that's how the prices is going to gradually go up, is when they restock. So things they ran low on, things that have to be fresh like nuts, they have to keep those fresh. You're gonna feel those right away. When your bed, you're probably not gonna feel for 3, 4 months until the stock runs low and they have to resupply it. So we're just really starting to see it, but it's going to be across the board. You're going to see it more.
This is hypothetical because, again, the prices of eggs dropped after all the hysteria.
The prices of eggs drop, but they still haven't reached what they were before. I mean, it's still so a carton of
Just like
eggs.
gas prices. Remember that situation? Just like gas prices, because we tapped into our reserves of oil here in America and they made gas prices go drop when people were complaining that was high.
All right, so when Trump came into office, a carton of eggs would cost me about $3 and change. Now they're six and change. They're still double.
You said
They're
you
still double. Like
said
right
that.
now, I like eggs. I love eggs. I work out a lot. I need the protein. I eggs are a steady part of my diet. I have reduced what I eat in eggs because the prices are ridiculous. So yes, they've come down from $12, where you're literally paying $1 an egg, and they're only 50 cents an egg. When it was only like a quarter an egg, though, they're still twice what they were when he got in office.
And they
That's the math.
still, that wasn't his fault because that happened before him when they killed all those
Oh,
chickens
you
because
wanted
of
to bring the fact they
the.
reduced it down, but now that I talk about the actual price, it's not his fault. You can't have it both ways.
Yes, I can because this happened after 3 months, whereas the price was up when he was already in there. When he first came in, the
No,
price
the
was
price
going
was
up.
not up when he was already in. The price went up when he got in. The price went up like a month after he got in office. That's why he was
Again,
like,
it's
"Yo, I'm
not
getting
his
blamed for
fault.
eggs."
Again, it's not his
It's
fault.
not his fault they went up, but it's his. But you take the blame from him coming down. But it's not his fault they didn't come down to what they were. What?
Well, that's what's happening with these tariffs and all these different price wars. So you can see the result now when he came in to try to solve the problem then.
Okay, tariffs cause inflation.
Okay.
That means inflation means prices go up. So tariffs cause prices to go up.
So what's going on in China? All the people panicking in China. Aren't you happy that China's panicking and they're going to cave to the president and we'll win as Americans because they're going out of business? Isn't that great?
No, the second strongest economy in the world and the first strongest economy in the world fighting does not seem like a positive thing. It seems like both sides are panicking. If you're American and you're not worried about prices about to go to two and a half, 245%
But
is
their prices are
astronomical
already
level.
affected. No, their prices are already effective immediately, whereas ours theoretically will be long term because they can't produce right now. And all the invoices that are outstanding have stopped. People immediately started buying. However, we still have product here. And on top of that, we have other countries like India and South Asia that's willing to sell us the same goods and materials. So their economy is hurting first, whereas long term, ours is a question mark. So isn't it great that China's feeling it, China and not us?
I'm glad that you really appreciate U.S. propaganda, but the realistic
The
side of
media
this,
didn't tell us that.
the propaganda is the United States is going to is the right wing propaganda is the United States is going to be fine. The obvious outlook
I didn't
is
say that. I just said that long term is a question mark for us. But in the meantime, China economy
well,
feels
that's
it
proper. There's
immediately.
no that's that's why Trump got mad at Jerome Powell. He said, math. And I guess math is like science. You can't use that. And so now he's a bad guy.
God. Okay, well,
I mean, it's really real simple.
it
If
is
prices of
simple.
stuff
We
goes
stopped
up,
buying from China. We still have a lot of stock already. That means our money has stopped going into China, whereas we're still selling and buying right now from what we have. So our economy hasn't affected yet. So that's why there's a question mark. But we have a whole bunch of allies that came on board, like India and South Asia, that can sell us the same goods, not maybe as quickly and faster in bulk like China, but China's economy has stopped now, is what I'm saying. And I
right?
everybody
Okay,
with
so
you.
China stopped now. But what you just said was the replacement that the United States has can't produce at the same rate, which means that there will be less in stock, which means that overall there will be inflation, prices will go up. This is still going to affect Americans. It's just
Hypothetically, but right now, what we do know is affecting China. So now that gives them time to come back to the table and say, you know what? We're going to change our prices. And if they do, that hypothetical of our prices going up will be mute because they came to the table because Trump's negotiating tool of tariffs actually worked the way he said it would. So again, we're
actually
seeing
the
what happens
dollar.
now in China, which is their economy is now in flux. There's no money's coming in from America. Whereas we have our supplies, we have our allies with the supplies we need, maybe not in bulk, but China has to figure out when we run out of supplies and it's new supplies that we have from these people over here affecting their economy. Because right now, they're not getting any money. So they're hurting now. Whereas in the future, months, weeks, whatever days, China has to figure out what is it going to do. Are they going to come back to the table and say, you know what, we're going to change these prices for you guys? We'll see. But in the meantime, we're good temporarily and they're bad now.
I don't know if that's true.
Because the
So
mainstream media is not going to report that. YouTube China's economy right now and all the business expos and all the Americans and other countries that's not going there to buy products.
right, but the U.S. dollar is now the weakest it's been in the history.
Okay, that's what they all say. That's
No, the United States dollar is as a trading tool to levy to buy goods is now weaker than it's ever been. Let's say against the euro. So the dollar is weakened right now. The biggest worry is not only the fact that the dollar's weaker, so now it costs more dollars to buy the same thing. Is that inflation? Not only is that the case, yes, that's a fact. Not only is that the case, but an even bigger problem is China is one of the largest holder of bonds in the U.S. bonds in the world. So, and what a bond is, like, boom. So if you need extra money to buy a house, right? You go to the bank, you borrow money from the bank. The bond market is the bank for countries and super large corporations. So when the United States needs to borrow money, it takes a bond, and another country will give that bond, and they make money off the interest. They're the bank; they make money off the interest. One of the largest holder of bonds in the world is China. Now, here's your problem, right? China sells off bonds. It dramatically weakens the US dollar and causes super inflation. Like, we can't afford for China to sell off our bonds. We can play
But
these
isn't that
tariff
good?
games. We can't afford that.
We're trying to wean ourselves off China and dependency on China. And we're showing the world how China operates. So the entire world's like, wow, we shouldn't mess with China and all this investments in our country either because they think long term. And President Trump only has 4 years to think long term, where they're the real dictatorship over there and not democracy because their president, Xi Jinping, he could live forever as president. So isn't that interesting how democracy works and it kind of hinders us in these negotiations? But yes, we have to get off the dependency of China and especially them buying land in our country near critical military installations. So I think this is great. Yeah, so what
Bonds are
now?
not a dependency on China. Bonds is the way the global economy works.
But they
Like, all
bought
countries have bonds.
right,
As
but
a
you
matter of
just
fact,
said
as a matter of fact, the other countries bought U.S. bonds because the United States pays its bills on time. It was a safe haven for other countries to split their wealth. Like, if you want to buy something and you want something that you know you're gonna get your money back from, you buy U.S. bonds because you know you're gonna get your money back
mhm.
and you're gonna get it with interest. It was a safe haven for other countries. It was the bank, and China was one of the biggest holders in that bank in the bond market. China dumping U.S. bonds is going to cripple our economy if they let all of them go, because the United States would have to buy them back, and we can't afford it. In order for the United States to be able to afford it, taxes will go up like 10 times, 20 times. The U.S. can't afford to lose those for this tariff war to make China sell off our
You stay
bonds. We
with China
literally can't afford it.
as opposed to keeping this war going so that way we're America is the number one holder of bonds. Isn't that a good idea, Leo? To take
I don't think you
China's place?
understand what I just said. I think it went over your head. I'm
Well,
gonna say
but
this
I
differently.
understand that. But my point is this: we must topple China and to become the number one in the world. Whatever that looks like, how we do it, I think as an American citizen, that would be great. Because now, according to what you just said, China has us by the balls. And I don't like that feeling. I don't know about you.
This is not the way to do it. Outright financial war with the country that holds all of your debt or holds a substantial amount of your debt. You don't declare finance. That's like me going to war with the banks. I might want to reconsider my options on how I
Everybody
do.
before Trump knew China was a problem. We should do something with China. Now, all of a sudden, Trump is like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to negotiate it. I'm just going to do something about it. I don't care what it is. It's a problem.
The tactic is the problem, not the mindset of doing something. The tactic. He's going balls to the wall. He's destroying our economy. Anyway, Doge. Let's go back to Doge, right? Elon promised he was going to find $2 trillion in waste, fraud, and abuse. This was the goal of Doge. He topped out at $150 million, $150 billion, and a lot of the stuff is still being disproven. It was a scam. Why was he trying to find $2 trillion in waste, fraud, and abuse? Where did it go that he's now saying, "Oh well, we found 150 billion, and this is where he's at now"? That's where he's at now. He said he lied.
Okay. Now, like I tell all people running for office, there's a difference between lying and you just can't deliver. So don't promise these damn people anything. Did he lie? I believe he didn't. I believe he didn't deliver what he said he was going to do. There's a
So then
difference.
it wasn't there.
Oh, I didn't get to that yet. Now, back to the waste, fraud, and spending, which we all know is a huge problem
Well,
in
hold
this
up. Before you
government.
go there, before you go there, let's. There's one other factor I want to lay out, right? So the way he was going to find this waste, fraud, and abuse, what he was going to do about it was take away all these jobs, right? But here's the thing, right?
That's
If you
not
take away all the government jobs,
that's not true.
you so how what percentage of the federal budget is the government jobs?
Well, I don't know, but the thing about it
Is
is,
it 2% or less?
well, I understand that. That's what I'm saying. It's not just the jobs, Leo. He was canceling contracts. He was canceling funding. He was stopping a lot of progress in the different areas in which
150 billion versus 2 trillion. He didn't do what he didn't
he
succeed.
couldn't do it, in my opinion, because remember, he didn't touch the military budget, did he?
He no, because they wasn't after the
Exactly.
military budget. They were only after the budget that helped the American citizens. He wanted to fire people,
True.
and if he fired everybody, destroyed all the agencies and fired everybody, he would have only saved 2% of the budget. It would not have made an effective difference.
But I just
Math,
told
I
you,
know, like
I
math is
just
like
told
science. We don't use
you,
that, right?
Leo, he did not touch the military budget. So if he would have touched the military budget, who knew? But the fact is, he didn't lie. He just didn't deliver.
He didn't touch the military budget because that's not what he was after. He was after the entire reason Doge was formed was to go after Social Security, Medicare, and
That's not
Medicaid
true.
because that's the only place in the entire
That's not
government
true.
where they could cut and actually fund the tax cut write-offs that they wanted to give
That's
the
not
upper
true at
class.
all. That's not true at all because remember, the first agency they hit was what? US aid. They were going after everybody. But then when they got deeper and they busted to the military budget, because everybody asks, that's New York over there. And they asked, why did Elon Musk get the military budget? They said, we haven't gotten to it yet. But now they haven't gotten to it at all. And they closed up shop. I wonder why you can't touch the military budget, which we all knew for decades. And on top of that, remember
Well,
Trump is increasing it, and I think a $1 trillion contract is trying to increase the military, or something like that. So the military industrial complex is real; it's still there. Doge couldn't look at those books. There you have it.
hold up. So let me get this right. You asked why, then you answered it because Trump won't let him. That was your answer you just gave.
Trump
Because
and
Trump wants to increase,
other
cut the budget.
entities,
No, we want to add
and
planes.
other
We want
entities.
to add naval ships. We want to hire more people.
Exactly.
No, obviously
That's
you can.
waste. But they didn't do it for the military budget. We all know this. So Elon Musk may have been able to find those trillions of dollars of waste in the military's budget, which is the largest budget, which is the Navy as well, which is your branch, I think. But no, they didn't let him touch it. So he didn't deliver. Makes sense? He didn't lie. I'm sure his whole grandiose plan was to get everybody and find that 2 trillion in every department agency, like he said. But he started with USAID, not Social Security, not Medicaid. He started with USAID as the test pilot, and we see what he did with that.
That's what he did.
But he continued, but he stopped when he was getting closer to the military budget. And now it's time for him to move on.
So his whole thing was he cut 150 billion dollars, and that's what he
That
did.
wasn't deliberate. That's just what it was. Understand? That was
So
like,
at 150 billion, the only things that got cut, he cut Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare,
that's not true at all.
and USAID.
Go to Doge.gov.
A bunch of contracts, right? But I looked at a lot of them contracts. A lot of them contracts weren't renewed. It's not true. Is that why his approval rating is declining because of Elon Musk?
Okay. Now, if you go to Doge.gov, let's share the website again so that way you put all these things to bed. Now, when you go to doge.gov, that's .gov, but according to Leo, it might not be true. And then you go over here to savings. Here we go. That's what you're talking about, right? Per taxpayer. And then we come down here and we see all these wonderful things, right? Some are down, some are neutral.
So
This
I
is
see three
where,
things. There's only three things affected, and only one of them went down. The SBA.
now this is where, let me see. Oh, it's not working for that one. But Health and Human Services is where Social Security is. Well, look at all the savings they're having here. Now let's look at Social Security. All right, US Aid is there. Let's see, HHS. Health and okay, let's see if we
It's
find
right
another.
there. It's number one.
Okay, here you go. Health and Human Services, Department of Texas, Public Health Foundation, Florida, Research.
Oh God,
I don't
forgive
see I
me.
don't see any Social Security here. But then again, there are 9,000 items, and this is just page one. But again, I encourage you all to look at doge.gov for yourself and find out how much money they stole from Social Security. I mean, if you think about it, Social Security and Medicaid, that should have been the bulk of the findings of a 900 billion, don't you think? But it's not.
It hasn't gone into effect yet.
Of
No, it
course.
hasn't. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's he set it up to be cut, and it's being brought up in the tax bill and the which bill is it? It's a bill coming up that is going to be voted on.
So
The
Congress has
one
put it down.
one one came up already. That was about a month ago, where there were cuts, and the next one is going through Congress as we speak.
Let's ask
It,
AI. How much has Social Security been cut? Question mark. All right, it's looking to cut 12% of its workforce.
yes, in 31 different Social Security offices, half the workforce was already laid off. Yes.
Okay. So how's that helped or hurts? Anything.
How does laying off a tenth of your workforce hurt? Only Elon can answer that. 'Cause that's the Elon thing. You know, he comes in, he starts a business, he cuts people off. He did it with Tesla. He did it with X. He's doing it with the United States government. That's what he does. He comes in and lays people off. That's Elon Musk. He's a Saudi Arabian. I'm sorry, South African. I'm sorry, whatever he is, non-American that comes into America and buys up businesses like the United States government and lays people off. That's what he does. That's with a chainsaw.
Yeah, it's just like the government, it's like the president of Argentina. Yeah. But there you have it. I mean, I haven't heard any seniors complaining about it. And if you cut the workforce, that
I have.
really, what have you heard in the streets?
They can't get in touch with Social Security. So Donald Trump has this big claim. The biggest claim he got that when he got into office, we were losing 2 billion a day, and now we're making 3 trillion a day.
Okay.
Yo, that shit is. I'm sorry. He
He just be
broke me on that one.
trolling. He just be trolling. That's Trump being Trump once again.
All right, so we're gonna pay no attention to what he says on certain items. It's kind of almost like religion. You want to take which parts of the Bible you want to listen to.
Right.
Federal Judge Brian Murphy issues injunction blocking deportation of non-citizens to countries not mentioned. So a federal judge has now put an injunction in place. An injunction is something where a court can block an action, blocking the deportation of non-citizens. So a judge has blocked the deportation of non-citizens at this point.
Okay.
Do you think that Trump should move forward? Do you disagree with this judge?
Well, the thing is, you have to keep in mind that here in New York City locally, they're trying to redesign Rikers Island to hold some of these illegals, especially the bad ones. Because remember, Tom Holmes said we're going for the bad guys first, pursuant law enforcement's databases. And they're trying to actually revamp Guantanamo Bay. So in order to deport these people, they have to be processed. So in the meantime, all the president and the administrations do is just to build these facilities to capacity. Now, some argue that this is going to be an industrial complex of a moneymaker to process these people, but yes, he probably won't deport them at all because they have a backlog of asylum applications. But yes, they're probably going to be kept in detention center because they came in this country illegally. So that's the consequence and the chance they knew they had to take.
Well, if they get their due process, I have no complaints. That's all we're asking for. We don't want citizens to be deported,
We're
and
talking
we
about
don't want,
non-citizens. We're talking about non-citizens. So
I mean, non-citizens, you came into the country illegal, you're being held to be deported, shouldn't have snuck in.
right, Donald Trump
I can't defend that.
accounts. I guess like the way
Listen, how do you argue what it is? Like, I mean, I can argue it,
liberals
but I
argue
don't,
all the time.
I can't argue with Trump on that. Like, yo, you break into my crib, and now you can, and I've been gone for 6 months, and now I got to go to court to get you out. Get the hell out of my house. Why do I got to go to court? Because
Squatters'
you broke into
rights.
my house and you get to stay here. These laws are crazy.
Squatters' rights, my friend. Don't own a property in New York State, or New York City, rather.
Yes, I was quite referring to the squatters' rights and making the comparison. That's exactly what I was doing. Yes, because it's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Like, yo, you came in, you're not supposed to be here, but the law protects you for bringing in. Come on, that's crazy. Anyway, I digress. So, and that's what it is. Basically, the non-citizens are coming in and declaring squatters' rights. That's what it is.
And the nonprofit industry makes a lot of money, and also the bigger government that has to create the Office of Immigrant New Citizen Arrivals that's created with all its new employees will be wasting a lot of money. But he's shutting down all that stuff. Because remember, the Office of New Arrivals, all those offices will be shut down across the country. So that budget goes back inside. People have to lose their jobs, but all that grant money they pump out on the DHS because it's an emergency on the FEMA, all that money is going to be preserved as well. Isn't that great? HHS, Human Services, all that money for the hotels and the debit cards, that's going to dry up. And that's going to go to other people that need it.
That citizens that pay taxes, that when they come into hard times, need the money and can't get it because it's being sent to people who never paid a dime into it. It's disgusting.
I love it.
But some people think it's great. So, and if I offended you, turn the channel. Where are we at?
I think that's it. Let's see.
Now we got two more things, well, three more things. Well, let's jump into Harvard right quick. Harvard's standing strong, man.
Good
You
luck.
like yo, they talk about taking about 2 billion in grants, stopping them from taking overseas students. Wow.
And canceling
Stop.
their tax exemption status like they should do for Madison Square Garden and the NFL.
And the NFL. For
Ooh,
real.
see that coming, did
Don't
you?
nah, you don't say that on here. You can't say that on here. I can't say I know the NFL needs that status. Screw that. Nah, I don't
That's the
want that coming
NFL,
from
but
them.
not the church, huh? Thank you.
No, you can't take it away from the church. That's a completely separate 501(c)(3), as we both know. Because I mean, that's the best business in the world. The Catholic Church has the best business in the world. Your employees work for free. You get
Number real
tax
estate
exempt
agent.
status. Like, I love it, man. I need a business like that.
They're the
Um,
biggest real estate agent in the world, the Catholic Church.
yeah,
And
yes, no, McDonald's. This second,
but
McDonald's.
the next thing is keep in mind why does a private university need a tax exempt status? I think it's called
Double dipping.
Liberal University or Heritage University. There's a college whose the name escapes me on this side that doesn't has a tax exempt status because that way that's how the government and these nonprofits pull their way into your curriculum. Case in point in New York City, that's why schools continue to fail because they need to make sure these students fail to a certain point that they keep getting this grant money and funding it. As a person that was been in education, I know this, but on a collegiate level, why does a private university need federal money? And then on top of that, the president has clearly stated, I do not want this federal money to go to any DI, gender affirming care, education, because those degrees just make loan money and destroy people's credits, and you can't get a real job with it anyway. And then you're going to use our federal funding to pillage our campuses, protest all day and every day, and just crank out more un-American hatred, putrid sentiment. So no, Harvard, you have a lot of donors. You don't need our federal money, and then use it for the curriculum we told you not to. So you don't need your tax exempt status. because you should be able to self-fund through all your tuition and all your philanthropic,
Philanthropists.
yes, all those people. So
So DEI also helps people in impoverished black neighborhoods
do what?
get
It
funding
does.
from schools. So you're taking DEI away, you're taking away opportunities for black people to be
I
able
just
to
told
get
you they
funding, and that's
fail.
a fact.
Yeah, but these schools fail anyway. Our kids don't can't read on reading level anyway. That's the fact. Thank God
Not
for
at the
Rip the
collegiate
Man,
level.
baby. Department of Education.
Actually, at the collegiate level, the demographic that has the most degrees out of anybody in the United States is black females. So that's not true. More than
Oh,
Asians,
really?
more than
All that loan
Asians,
debt?
more than
Look
white
up with
men.
loan debt. Black females, right?
Well, they also, if you go into a hospital, if you go into a government building, if you go places, you walk in, the people that are working with them degrees is black women.
And DEI got them there.
Yes, so DEI helps black women,
Black women.
yes.
It doesn't help white women and Asians achieve greater
Oh,
things.
so we shouldn't do it because other people are getting helped. We should
We
shoot
should
ourselves in
make
the foot.
DEI synonymous with black people. Let's start there.
I
Just
didn't
because
make
you
it
get rid of
synonymous with black people.
DEI doesn't mean you're going to hurt black people.
What I said was it helps us, and it's a misnomer to say that it doesn't because we should. So we shouldn't want it because other people benefit from it as well. It's something that's good across the board that should make us want
No,
it more.
no, I
Very
disagree.
Christian of you.
Yes. But then again, everybody's not Christian, Leo. So what can you do?
Well, your side of the coin is very Christian.
Well, the Bible does says if you don't work, you should not eat. Did you know that?
I don't know what that has to do with the black women who get get their degrees and
You
go to
want
get
to talk about
jobs.
Christianity? Now you want to stop?
I mean, yo, listen, God bless the child that have their own.
Oh yeah,
All
well,
right, so you agree that Russia should not, Russia, I go to the next one. Harvard should not receive their funds because
no.
they're giving DEI initiatives. You think that's a good thing, regardless of the black people that it helped.
Yes. How many black people go to Harvard? That's the first thing. So yes, and its tax exempt status, all those private universities, the Ivy League and beyond, that don't want to use the SAT scores and other academic merit-based standards, yes, take away all that gravy, put it into HBCUs, because that was designed post-Reconstruction for who? The black people. Doesn't that make sense, Leo? If you really want to be DEI? I mean, shouldn't all the black people want to see those institutions funded and go to those universities instead of feeling included in people places like Harvard and the Ivy Leagues?
Yes, because Donald Trump's going to put the money there. That's what's going to happen.
He did the first time, if you recall, and the Democrats cut it when as soon as Joe Biden got in, and that was a big
I
hoopla.
did not know that. You got to show me that information. That's actually great stuff, actually. No, that's, listen, you know me. I'll give credit where it's due. That's great. If
Instead,
he did that, that's great.
damn that Donald Trump is racist and phony.
I never said he was racist.
Okay, just saying.
Actually, I constantly state that he's not.
He's not stupid either, so
Absolutely not. The man's the most brilliant con artist in the world. He's definitely he's the most brilliant marketer I have ever seen by far. Not he is. He's the most brilliant marketing man I've ever seen. Like he can give classes on marketing. He's brilliant. He
university.
comes up with yeah. Now that's what his genius is. He comes up with slogans. Make America great again. It's simple, 3 to 4 words.
Yes,
It's
we can.
catchy.
Yes, we can. Remember that? Yes, we can.
No, I'm not taking anything away from him, and I want change. Like, yeah, but he's brilliant at it. The statement is so brilliant that we got Maha, we got Make America
Right, 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 right,
wealthy
right.
again. We got all of this based off of him saying Make America great again. He's brilliant. He's a brilliant marketer. He is, which is why he's so dangerous. All right, so Russia, it is because he can convince people anything because it sounds good. And
Not with this media trying to fact check him out the building. So
if he didn't have the capability of reaching an audience with his brilliant marketing mind, then the
the
media wouldn't
mainstream
have been paying
media
attention
does
to.
all the work for him, Leo. The CNN,
That's
the
absolutely
NBC,
not true.
they do
That's
all the work
absolutely
for
not
him.
true.
And the more they put hate on his name, the more popular it gets. So
Right,
guess
that's
what?
part of his marketing strategy. That is the
How,
point.
how did
That's
he
his
control
brilliance.
that? The mainstream media controls the narrative that doesn't work. They quadruple, they ran out of cards. down on Trump. So it's their fault because they still haven't figured out how to stop his messaging, which is through them. But their ratings are in the toilet because nobody watches them anymore, and the ratings on YouTube channel are going up. So maybe
Yes,
it's true.
neo-journalists rock, baby. Neo-journalists rock. But you seem to be missing the entire point. The point is that he was able to use marketing genius to make the mainstream media who was working against him work in his favor and talk about him nonstop. That's genius. He was able to make the mainstream media talk about him nonstop. Love him or hate him, you're still talking about him. It's
Trump
G. Wait,
derangement
oh,
stand-up is real.
it's
Trump derangement
brilliant.
stand-up is
It's
real.
freaking brilliant.
He's
It's
made people
brilliant.
hate him so much they're obsessed with talking about him negatively. Works.
Talk about him negative, positive. He's still talking about him. It's working.
That's right.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. That is the genius of Donald Trump. It's his marketing. Like we're sitting here talking about him. We talk about him twice a week right now. Twice a week. He's brilliant.
Wonderful.
And people are tuning in. We got people tuning in to hear him. And this doesn't make me a fan. It means I respect genius when I see it. The man's brilliant. Anyway, we're at Russia now, right? So now Russia is backing Hamas. Whoa. The United States is backing Israel. Russia's backing Hamas. How do you think Trump should and will respond to this?
Well, I think that they are working with Israel to get their hostages out. That's the last thing I read about that. And if they're working with Hamas, so far, oh my goodness, excuse me. I don't see anything negative coming from it because remember, Hamas is trying to cool things down. So if Russia's working with Hamas, do you really think Russia's going to give weaponry and support Hamas as opposed to buffer Ukraine? That makes no sense to fight a war on two fronts, doesn't it?
Well,
Right, Neighborman?
nah, that does make sense. I mean, right now they have their hands full with Ukraine, and I haven't heard anything about what's happening in Ukraine as of recent. I don't know
Media, what happened? You used to play it on loop. Why can't you see some more in Ukraine?
because Donald Trump is not supporting Ukraine anymore, but other people are stepping in. If
Good.
Ukraine falls, Poland is next.
Oh, here we go again. Good. Let Poland stand up. America is not the parent police of the world anymore. We've got to make America great again. So,
If the United States didn't step in World War II, Germany would have taken over the world, and we're watching it on repeat now. And the United States is not stepping in. As a matter of fact, it's stepping to the side, allowing it to happen. The USSR is going to reform. It's going to be stronger than it was during the Cold War in the 90s.
well, we just have to wait and see now, don't we? And let those people in those countries stick up for themselves. Again, America's going to sit back, wait, and watch.
So you think it's a good idea to wait and see what happens when something so incredibly bad is already happening? Like, let's wait till it gets really bad and then it's going to cost more time, effort, resources, energy, and possibly a complete loss. Wait for that, especially if China's siding with
Because
them.
China, guess what? Yeah, exactly. Because now Europe is siding with China in this tariff war. So Europe already showed its ass. They can't be trusted as well with the WHO, NATO, rest of the gang. So you're on your own, you ungrateful ingrates.
Do you think maybe the EU is siding with China because the US started this tariff war and is siding with Russia?
Yes, you don't need our money. So protect yourself from the evil Russia yourself. Otherwise, Putin and Trump are just a phone call away for peace.
In During World War II,
Okay.
this would have been called the Axis powers.
Okay.
So
Europe
you're
and
siding
China,
with
right?
the New World regime where totalitarian governments are in control. And a president in the United States who disobeys Supreme Courts, threatens congressmen, and if they vote against him, he's going to have the richest man in the world take have somebody replace them and replace their seats is a totalitarian, without question.
Then why would you want a totalitarian to come in and protect your country? Why would you want to move to America and cross our border with such a racist, evil empire? That makes no sense. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, It appears that the MAGA party is for the totalitarian government regime that has been established. When we're ignoring, when the judges are issuing injunctions that are being ignored and administrations are being held in contempt, the words constitutional crisis have been overused, you said. That is the definition.
Prior to the Supreme Court, no more local judges telling the president what to do. Prior to Congress, set the impeachment process, get the Republicans on their side, three-fourths vote, two-thirds votes, veto power. Let's exercise that constitution. Let's see it in motion. Let's not look
He
over there in the
literally is threatening Congress by backing people to take their seats if they go against him. That
so is
sounds
the DNC.
illegal.
So is the DNC. The DNC wants to put 20 million in primary all the Democrats that have not done their jobs in safe seats. So why not? Let the Democrats eat each other and let Trump throw some freaking grenades on top of that cake.
So ignoring the judicial branch and threatening the Congress, the legislative branch, makes him an extreme ruler. It makes him a totalitarian. It makes him
Yeah.
it
Other
makes him
word.
a dictator.
Okay.
You're good, and as a supporter, you're happy to see it.
Yes, because it feels like things are finally getting done. No more talking about it.
So the perspective is that Donald Trump taking over the government's a good thing. That's a very scary thing for.
I didn't say that, but okay.
Well, that's exactly what you just said. That's what I asked, and you responded
I
yes.
told you that I'm happy with the situation. Now, I also told you the solution to the situation. Supreme Court and Congress, and what are they doing?
He's
Let's
ignoring the
fix it.
Supreme Court. Take the Supreme Court out. He's outright ignoring them. Injunctions be damned. I'm doing what I'm going to do. That's what he did. So the Supreme Court no longer has any power. He stripped them of their power by ignoring
Pass
their
the law to the
injunctions.
legislative branch. What are they doing?
If you do something, I'm taking your job. That's what he said to them. He tied their
In the
hands.
midterms, just like they threatened the Republicans in the midterms, just like the DNC threatened the Democrats in the midterms. Well, that's politics for campaign management purposes. In the meantime, when it comes to legislation, Congress has to do its job. What bill proposal or resolution that they have on the table to, give us some options.
All right. Well, if you want to hear more, please
What
like,
about
share,
me?
subscribe, join us. That helps boost us in the algorithm. If you subscribe, you'll get to know when we're on. You can come on, you can make comments, you can talk about it, join the conversation. And before we leave, Dion, do you want to like to tell them a little bit about yourself, how they can find you, what you do?
Send me an email at dionnyconsultant.us. No S, Dion or nyconsultant.us. Hope I get back to
All
you.
right, that's it. Thank you for tuning in. I hope to hear from you. Let's continue these conversations. Maybe we can find a solution somewhere in the middle. We seem to be at odds here. Donald Trump seems to have a division in the state growing worse than it's ever been. He's giving solutions. Everybody doesn't
Check
agree with the
out
solutions.
Children's Health Defense and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with the autism epidemic that he's going to expose. Also, check out what I just showed you about the pandemic and Dr. Fauci on the whitehouse.gov with all that stuff right there. And remember, our 250th anniversary is coming up. So those are very important issues. They're not going to talk about the autism epidemic and how it increased thousands of percents. And Kennedy's going to expose it. And also Dr. Fauci with the whole COVID corona lockdown fraud that the president's going to expose. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And the Dr. Fauci ouchie stuff is real. The celebration of America sounds great. As far as the figuring out autism thing, it sounds like he's just doing what he was going to do anyway and figuring out autism in 3 months, guaranteeing that's impossible. Scientifically can't be done. How do you know you're going to find the answer? That's not how science works.
Just like the
But
vaccine, how are you going to find the answer without doing a test with something called a placebo? And that's exactly what Kennedy's going to put out there. Basic common sense and logic and reasoning when it
yes,
comes
because
to
he's definitely going to
mandatory.
follow the science because that's the party of science, right? The science doesn't work that way. You cannot. predict I'm going to have an answer in 3 months. Science doesn't work that way because it just doesn't. You can say, well, there's a correlation. There are patterns. There's a correlation.
Go
You
to
can't say it's
Children's
a
Self
cause.
Defense. Go to Children's Self Defense website or search Children's Self Defense autism, and they have their scientists and doctors' papers there that were suppressed, and also doctors who had their licenses revoked and scientists that were suppressed and fired. Children's Self Defense. That's where I get my information, and I know this spokesperson. Shout out to Mary Holland, the executive director.
Right. And here's the thing, right? So you can't get your information from one place. You have to go to multiple places to draw your own conclusions, right? It sounds like you're like kind of like what is that? Drinking the Kool-Aid. So you're not
Oh, you
getting
gotta insult people and disparage people. Those people on your side by
nah, you're
advocating
not taking both sides. That's what I'm saying. You're
sides.
not you just said you get your information from here. And I'm saying you gotta get your information from both sides and compare the two and then see what makes sense. If you're only taking it from one side, then you're not
Makes
getting
sense to
the
me.
whole picture.
It makes sense to me that they're going to beat up on Kennedy and discredit him as a loony when it comes to exposing autism, as opposed to keep the status quo the way it is and keep autism the way it
Oh
is.
no, that's lunacy too. 1 in 12 kids getting sick when it used to be 1 in 10,000 is
We
something
question
needs to be done. Something needs to be
that's what
done.
we do on this
I
side.
agree with
We
Kennedy.
question everything on this side. We question everything. And so for the
Right.
mainstream media and medical science, they're not providing the information about the COVID vaccine and also vaccines on young children, autism, and all the fake stuff in our food and our environment that's making
I
America.
agree with all of that. Fake food and the stuff in our food, the stuff in our environment, the water. I agree with all of that. I mean, fluoride helps our tooth strength. I don't know if we don't. I think we need fluoride a little bit. It's the amount. Yeah, it actually strengthens the enamel in teeth. That's kind of what fluoride does.
Of course.
You know, that's I know it's science, so we can't really use it, but and that's the problem. See, this is
But what's
science.
the
Like,
negative side of fluoride? What's the negative side if you're
oh,
selling
it's
it?
a mind control drug. It makes people stupid.
Oh, I don't know about that. Show me some facts on that one. That sounds like a conspiracy.
It does, but those are the facts. It makes people. What is the
And that's the media
exact
tell us
term?
that. Why does the media tell us that?
Hitler used
What's
it
it?
in his
Exactly.
water.
Now we go to Nazi Germany, right?
No, I mean that's what he did. It's kind
Apple.
of it's what it is. But at the end of the day, drawing a correlation. So in Europe, they also have vaccinations, and their autism rate is picked up to 1 in 12, just like in America. You like to say that Kennedy uses a study that was done in the Amish community where they don't get vaccinations and there's no autism. But then you can go to Caribbean, ready for it? They give vaccinations. And guess what? The autism rate is still 1 in 10,000. So it's not the
Well, number
vaccinations.
one is that he had a problem because there were no case studies that whole time with placebos and other control groups. The next thing that's a fact is that vaccines do have what? Mercury and aluminum in them, and that can cause autism and negative effects. So,
That's a fact. That's true. That's true. There's no question about that. Mercury and aluminum should not be
in your
shot in the
body,
kids.
mandatory in your body.
That's crazy.
In the Caribbean, I'm not sure if it's optional, but yes, in America, we actually vaccinate the most in the country, mandatory from baby all the way up to your job where you have to get your tuberculosis shot and all other stuff, TB or whatever it is. So yes, flu shots
I
and
mean, flu
COVID
shots I don't
vaccines.
take. Tuberculosis I think will kill you if you catch it. So you might want to do something about that. You don't really want a pandemic of tuberculosis,
The
I don't
point
think.
is this that we inject a lot of poison in our body because it is poison with side effects. And now with the new weight loss needle in your body, it's all correct that we are too heavily medicated in this country. And Kenny is going to blow the lid.
He cannot claim that he's going to discover the cause of autism in 3 months. That's impossible.
No, no,
That
no.
means he has a predetermined outcome.
All right, well, we have to wait and see, like all things in this administration.
I 150% guarantee you it's going to be that autism is caused by the same thing he's been saying for the last 40, 50 years. I 100% guarantee that because You cannot predict when you're going. Science doesn't work that way. How you can predict that you're going to get to the end of the test, but you can't guarantee an outcome. Like because there might be extraneous factors you don't see coming. How can you predict? We're definitely going to know the outcome of this. You can't. That's silly. It doesn't make any sense. That's not
Again,
science.
remember, we're not privy to the information that he has access to now that he is the Secretary of HHS. So all stuff they've been sitting on, maybe he did some digging with Elon. He's actually found it. What say you now?
I say that it's probably just a correlation or coincidence. If all of the stuff he found is has the same results as stuff he's been saying all along. It's kind of like Christians, right? And I'm gonna use that all just aside. I had this argument earlier without you with this young lady. So she's brilliant. She's brilliant. She really understands a lot of things. But when you give her new information, instead of her taking the new information and looking at the facts as a whole, what Christians tend to do is they take the information and they try and squeeze it into an explanation that fits what they want to see as the outcome. Jesus must be the Lord and Savior. Well, you
Yes.
know, what if there was stories about the Lord and Savior before Jesus came along, and these stories say that, these stories were around before Jesus was born, then the Christian thing to say is something like, I don't know, it's a prophecy, or they just copied ours. Not that, so what if it's 10,000 years older? They copied, it's stolen. That is the defense mechanism that comes up rather than incorporating new facts and coming up with new ideas and solutions. And that's what Kennedy does, or he's doing. No matter what evidence he gets, it's going to be the vaccinations. I 100% guarantee it. It's his train of thought.
Well, we just have to wait and see now, don't we? Just like a tariffs.
Right, because these are things that are going to have possible different outcomes. All right, yo, D.
You gotta put the kids to bed.
Oh, is that how you got the thumbs up to show up?
Yeah, because the AI in Zoom does it for you.
I did not know that. I gotta try that. Is that
Yes.
it?
And you
Doesn't.
also can
Oh,
raise your
I don't
hand.
use the AI. Is that what it is? I gotta use the AI.
Raise your hand. Watch. Raise your hand. See?
I don't use the
You
AI.
really gotta take the Zoom training.
I gotta. All right, that's cool. All right, so let me see if I did it now.
Okay.
No bueno. It's all good. I'll take the Zoom training at some point, maybe. Anyway, thanks for coming, man. You
Pleasure
already
being
told
with
them
you.
who you was and how to contact you.
Yeah, I
I
already
hope
did.
y'all got some valuable information. There's a lot of research to be done. Don't take either of our words for it. Both of us could be wrong, or maybe both of us are right at some points. Look it up for yourself. Just because we have our point of views and we have strong opinions doesn't mean we're right. I know I'm not always right. It's not possible to always be right. Research yourself, find your own facts. That's what I advocate. This is LC signing out.